Whatever it is, man, I don't know what's going on with this countdown, but things are kind of working a little quirky right now. Yo, this is Tribe, but Yo Tribe Sports Bag, and I'm back at it again today with you, and I'm getting into some sports. And this time around, there is no bias. There is no one else talking boxing today because we are a sports channel. And keeping with that theme, you know why you're here. You saw the thumbnail, and you see live with the SEC and things. College football is going on. Baseball just ended. We have a new World Series champions, and it is the Houston Astros. They didn't cheat this time. Either way, this is college football. That's why you're here. And who's along with me today? We're talking about none other than Alan Blankers. Yeah, you might not know who he is just yet, but let me tell you a little something. He has a podcast called The Fan Section, so if you want to check that out, I'll pop it up here on the screen real quick just in case you want to get down with that. But we're going to talk about some college football today.
Man.
Style college football, the best conference in all of college football, in my opinion, and it's been that way for a long time. There are so many detractors out there, so many liars, so many haters. They don't like the fact that the SEC runs things the way they do, and they allow other teams from the outside to come in every now and then and act like they're champions too. Ask Clemson, ask Ohio State. They've been invited to the party before as guests, though, because the SEC is still running things. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the others who aren't in the SEC, unfortunately for them. But, Alan, tell them something about your podcast if they want to check it out.
What's up, man? Thank you so much for having me and hosting me. It means a lot reaching out and just getting a chance to know you a little bit. It's been awesome. The Fan Section podcast. So it was I say it's a podcast for fans by fans from across the college landscape, from section 100 to section 300, bleachers all the way down to the suites. We welcome everybody in that podcast, man. So what it is just me and a buddy of mine. We just talk college sports. We started out when we were just kind of tired of the media not really hitting on some of the points that they needed to hit on, we felt. And we just wanted a good, honest opinion from our point of view. Obviously, opinions, subjective. So it's like one of those things where we felt that we weren't getting enough love to all the other schools. I mean, yes, he's a CU fan, so obviously living in Colorado, so there's a lot of them out here. But like me being a Georgia fan, we had two kind of realms of football that we were used to. I mean, he grew up in the 90s when, Rashawn Salam was dominating, and, Sean Watson with 2001 to 2004 was like the OC for the Buffs, and like Bobby Purify, Chris Brown, Joe Klatt, you know what I mean? Like players like that he grew up with. And I being a Georgia fan, like, Terrell Davis, Champ Baylor, Herschel Walker, the old school guys, like I knew of them and I was able to kind of watch. So we have two different mindsets, and we put our heads together and we have a really good show, I feel.
Hey, now you're going to contribute here for now, and maybe even in future shows, you can come back and we can hit that college football or any other sport for that matter. Because once again, with me, it's a college football show for right now, but it's a sports show overall with Yo Travis Sports Bag. Also, you did a little college football yourself in the past. You played for the University of Kansas at one point. You've also completed your college football with other schools. So, we don't need to get into that right now, but they do need to know that you do have a legitimate background and you do know your football, not just the being a fan favorite, but the X's and O's of football and the other nuances that comes with identifying talent through the pipeline, going back to high school, even earlier than that. So we'll get into what's going on right now in the SEC. And, of course, one of those questions that pop up is Bama out of this CFP? They're out of the college football playoffs. They suffered their second loss of the season. So that wasn't an aberration. It might have been a close game. There might have been something to it. But they still lost their second game. They're out of it.
Yeah, I think so. I don't want to say Bama's out of it ever. So my opinion is I never bet against Bama, and I think most of the betting world doesn't bet against Bama and I'm shocked when they lose. Like I really didn't think they were going to be a 2-loss team. I thought that them losing to Tennessee was a bit of a shock. But when it comes to Bama being out of it, I don't know, man. Like it's a jumble, right? Like you can probably, it's an argument that Georgia's at the top, right? You can, but I'm still of the mindset where Bama is still so talented. It's Bama, Georgia, and everybody else still. I really can't see, say Oregon or Michigan. I mean, they're going to play. Ohio State and Michigan are going to play. Say Oregon takes a loss to USC. Say USC takes another loss. That opens the door for a 2-loss Bama team. I mean, the committee has made it very clear. They want the 4 best teams, honestly, it's sometimes regardless of the record. Bama, I think you have to kind of include in that top 5, maybe even possibly top 4. I bet if they lined up against Tennessee today, they'd beat them.
You know what? They had the opportunity to do it, and they were
did.
close. They gave up over 50 points in that
I
game.
know,
That's
I
not a
know.
Nick Saban defense.
I know,
We've
it's
seen it a
not.
couple of times this season. They had their problems with Texas A&M, which is an abomination of themselves this year. They had another issue with Texas, who didn't even know where they were heading before they went into the season. And so they didn't just have issues with just the 2 losses they did get with Tennessee, and now their latest loss against LSU, who, by the way, has a quarterback, Jaden Jordan. Jaden Jordan right now is their quarter. I think it was
Daniels,
Daniels.
LSU, Jaden Daniels. He's a monster. Kids, I mean, if you want to talk about dual threat quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels is up there. He's got to be one of the best ones.
And I think that also changes the dynamic overall. We already know that. You don't need me to tell you. And I think people who decide to listen to this program would not have to ask that question, because this NIL and the transfer portal automatically changes the game. It changed it for LSU just years ago with Joe Burrow. It's changing their fortunes for what they should have been now with Daniels.
Yeah, most definitely. So I don't know. I mean, I never want to say never, because the whole landscape itself, I feel like the committee, if they don't get it right this year, then they had the chance to expand it. If they don't get it right this year with the best 4 teams that actually deserve to be in there, then I think they really need to expand it. And they're probably going to. And I was shocked they didn't. I really was. That's more money for the game, more money for all the conferences that get in, because each conference gets $1 million when they get a team in. So you think they'd be pushing for that expansion, but they didn't. And it was very confusing for me. But going back to the Bama, are they out? Right now, yeah, they're outside looking in. But I think it's kind of like 2017 when Auburn beat Georgia and Auburn ended up playing in that SEC title game. Bama was sitting out, and they were sitting pretty, and they got in along with, you know what I mean? So I think that, it is – I never want to say never with Bama, because Nick Saban –
Do you say never because Alabama's that good, or never because of the politics of college football, which does play a role?
I think when it comes to talent, Bama's one of the best schools in the nation for sure. I mean, you have the reigning Heisman Trophy winner on your team. You've got possibly a top 5 pick in Will Anderson Jr. I have him top 3 on my board. Plus, they got battle. They do have some injuries that have but none of the receivers that they got from the transfer portal, Jermaine Burton, even the 5-star that they had, none of them have stepped up, and that's what's really confusing. This doesn't look like a Saban Bama team to me. They don't play defense. And you can make the argument that since Kirby Smart has left, if you check the stats, their defense and their points per game and allowed have actually gone down and gotten a lot worse.
But that's what happens with it. That's what happens though when you lose coaches like that.
Agreed.
When you're successful, you're going to lose those kinds of coaches. Look at the kinds of coaches they've lost over the years. I mean, Jimbo Fisher, a national championship coach. Now Kirby Smart, Georgia national championship coach. Even a little bit of Mario Cristobal on the staff.
Going back old school.
Recruit of the year when he was there, responsible directly for those national championship. He's in Miami going through his own thing right now, but I'm going to worry about the process of what's going on in Miami. I'm not worried about the here and now. And anyone who thought that things would change immediately, they're delusional, but that's what fans can do. Fanatics are delusional. And that's what people are complaining about right now on Coral Gables. They were expecting 10 wins out of the box. This guy brought Florida International on the scene just years ago. I think he can get the job done. The process has to play out. And now we have a new dynamic with the process, with the transfer portal, the NIL. I mean, it's like a second and third recruitment for a lot of these players as well. And so I think Miami's going to be okay ultimately. But as we're speaking right now, I think the teams that deserve to be in the national championship should be the teams who've proven they belong in the national championships. And 2 lost teams don't deserve it. And that includes Alabama.
Agreed. And that's my thing, though, is like, I think there's going to be another team that's going to take another loss. That's going to be a 2-loss team that's going to be right on that fringe with Bama. I mean, if you look at the schedule remaining for some of these teams, there's 2 losses on a lot of these records, potentially. So I'm not going to – everybody's saying that this week Georgia's got a potential trap game in Mississippi State. You know what I mean? So it's like, okay, that's if they lose that game, I mean, I'm knocking on wood because I don't want my Dogs to lose. But at the same time, that would just open the door back in for Tennessee. It opens the door for LSU. It opens the door. I mean, even though LSU has those 2 losses, it still is what it is. I mean, as of right now, though, yes, Bama is currently out, and I think them saying it's a down year for Bama, it's like you're rocking a hard place for me. Bama's down from what we're used to seeing, but they're going to have a 10-win team. You know,
I don't think they're down.
No,
I think it's just a natural evolution of things, of everyone catching up, everyone playing with the same rules, and now that the transfer portal makes the rules a little easier.
Yeah,
I mean, look, Tyler Harrell hasn't even played for them yet. Tyler Harrell hasn't played for them yet. He came
have you seen their class?
He was talked about as being a dynamic game breaker coming to the Crimson Tide. He's been in the doghouse ever since he's been there.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know whether it's really the injury or if you're in Nick Saban's doghouse, you just can't get out because Nick has so much goodwill. He could keep a 5-star Heisman Trophy down, and no one will really question him in Alabama, or if you're a Bama fan. That's how much goodwill he has there. But Alabama right now, I don't believe they're the best team. I think they're among the best, but there are a bunch of best teams now.
It's true, very true.
And with Michigan playing the way they're playing, they're like the unsung hero in this entire thing. Yeah. Michigan is a lot better than people are thinking, because I thought the Penn State game would be the game that's going to show them that, you know what, we're going to find out what Michigan's all about. They blew them out of the water like it was no.
Oh yeah, it was a massacre. It was a rout for sure. And I said this last year on a podcast. I think, this was before Michigan got ranked in the top 4. I had them as the most complete team I had ever seen. That was with Aiden Hutchinson rocking off the edge. They had a really good run game, and they still have a really good run game, and they have the best O-line arguably in the nation. So yeah, Michigan is. I think they're gonna beat the brakes off Ohio State. I really do.
You know what? They did that last year, but Ohio State's a different story, and I think people take a little bit too much of what happened at Northwestern just this past Saturday when it comes to Ohio State. You have to watch that game in order to understand what happened in that game. Exactly. I don't think you can look at the scoreboard or even look at the stats after the game and say, you know what, finally someone, Ohio State is overrated, and based on this win, or, not the win that we expected, but still a win nonetheless, this is the reason why. You have to watch that game and see the weather that was in that game. And
50-mile-an-hour winds.
We can always use both teams were in the same weather. So that's why blah, blah, blah. Bro, this team, like boxing, styles makes fights. Styles also make teams play the way they normally play.
You hit it on the head, man. Hit it on the head. Northwestern is built for games like that. And yes. I've been in this argument
before. As bad as they are.
And I don't think people realize they got some big boys. Like, let's be real. Northwestern,
big smart guys.
Their offense is straight gap running offense. It's a heavy run style offense where they have the big boys, they line them up, they put your chin straps on, and they say, let's go to work. And that's the game with 50 where you don't have to throw the ball fits into that game plan. And they play really tough-nosed, hard-nosed defense. And you're right. You hit it on the head, man. That game, you have to look at it both sides. It favored Northwestern, even though they were less of a talented team. Had Northwestern been a Minnesota team, I think Ohio State probably would have taken a loss. I really do.
They probably would have. In that same circumstance, with that same weather, all of those things being the same, they probably take a loss.
Yeah.
But we'll get to the other things. But I thought I needed to throw that in based on the trajectory of what we were talking
100%.
about. But going back to the SEC, we're looking at LSU. Are they making a move too soon? I mean, is it too little too late? They beat Alabama. They got their thing. Is this going into the next season, or is this another, we got to go to the portal again, get another quarterback, and we got to start from scratch again? Because LSU's had problems getting quarterbacks as far as recruiting them for years.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow wasn't their guy. They've had guys since Jamarcus Russell. He was their guy, and he was good, and not an NFL good, but he was good, as an LSU player. And we've seen the types of other players that they've had in the past that just did not work out at the quarterback spot. I mean, Matt Mock was considered a good quarterback there once upon a time.
Yeah. So when it comes to quarterbacks, right, the best one that we've probably come to know is Joe Burrow. You could argue, right? Or the most recent best one, I guess, within the last 5 years. But Jane Daniels. So is it too little for too? He's a junior. I don't know if he actually is projected where he should be. If he comes back, if I'm him, I'm coming back another year because they're building up for success. They really are. LSU has a really good class coming in from the 2021 class that I did a little bit of research on. They coming in, and a lot of those players are going to be freshmen, sophomores, going to the next year to juniors. They're going to basically the meat of that team, right? The core, the very foundation of that team. That's what you want, and they're starting to believe in this system that they've instilled, and it almost happened overnight. It was really kind of ridiculous. Like, Brian Kelly has done some amazing things.
Kelly, bro, I don't like to give that guy credit.
I'm the same way.
But you got to. You have to.
I'm the same way. Like he was making fun, like to kind of reiterate, like he made fun of how he didn't have the talent at Notre Dame. Notre Dame every single year has had a top 5 or top 10 draft class, or recruiting class.
Yeah.
He had the talent. It wasn't that he didn't have the talent. And then he goes and says, "I can recruit the players I want." You've always recruited the players you want. Notre Dame lets you have these players. The fact that you're just kind of that's a myth. That narrative needs to go away. But going back to LSU, what he's built and that culture that he has, I really think they're going to be in a New Year's Six bowl. I think they'll deserve it. I don't have him in the playoff. I think it's too little, too late.
No, exactly.
But I do think that if Jaden Daniels comes back, LSU should be in contention.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yep, 100%.
When this season started and they played Florida State, I thought that LSU would beat Florida State just simply because they had a better team than Florida State.
Better team, right? Yeah.
I didn't think Florida State was going to be this good this year. Mm-hmm. And they really aren't that good. I mean, they just beat the crap out of Miami. But look at Miami. I just finished explaining what's going on with Miami.
Right.
I mean, they're still working with Manny Diaz's players.
Yeah.
Some of those players even left and didn't even get drafted.
And they or they hit the portal.
They're game breakers. Mm-hmm. And so I'm saying from the LSU, I was expecting them to win that game at home, and they didn't win. Well, it wasn't even a home game, right? It was a Atlanta game. It was in Atlanta, wasn't it?
Yeah. Which one? The most recent one?
The LSU Florida State game.
Oh, I don't know where it was. But I know that
because I didn't get the result.
Yeah, I know that they've got Arkansas this week, so that'll be a good test.
Oh yeah, well, you know what? I'm not on. Arkansas would have been a good test a couple of weeks ago when everybody really thought they had something, but since then they've gone down the drain and enjoyed the Tidy Bowl wave. I mean, they've gone down the drain. They haven't done anything. Arkansas is almost back to being just the Arkansas we thought an afterthought. You know, I mean, this isn't the days when they had Run DMC and Felix Jones and Peyton Hollis running the ball, man. This is not that kind of team anymore. And I was expecting something like that.
Right. What?
But, you know, because all the hype, you know, we know football enough to where we can try to compartmentalize and see that, you know what, we know what we're seeing. We know what we should expect. But then we let the media tell us other things, and then fans get it going. You listen to a crowd, you see them beat up on bad teams, and we run with it. And then when we don't get our desired result, we're like, man, how did we fall for that again? We got hoodwinked. Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just basing it off this. I think so. Yeah, LSU. I mean, it's the SEC, right? So there's really not outside of, you can argue Vanderbilt, but even Vanderbilt's much improved, right? Like Missouri is much improved.
Yeah, nice start.
Arkansas is not the team that they have been projected to be for sure, but I still think they're a solid team. I mean, I've never been on the KJ Jefferson hype. I don't think he's
another
not
one of those running
backs
that throws passes.
No, I just don't think he's very good. He's decent. Like, and he's a Division I quarterback in the SEC. You're good. You're great, system, but you're not good enough to be that guy to lead that team the way it needs to be. And just real quick, LSU's last 5 games, they put up 45 against Ole Miss. They put up 45 against Florida. They put up 13 against Tennessee, 21 against Auburn in a really close game, and then they put up 32 against Alabama. So I really feel like from the Florida game on, they've been averaging 35 points a game.
And
so it's like, I mean,
haven't been the SEC of old. We used to know the SEC is having good teams, but also good defenses.
Right.
This SEC right now is looking like the WAC from the 90s.
It is, or it's looking more like the Pac-12, where they really don't play defense outside of maybe one team, and then that team runs the Pac-12, for that matter. Right? Like the USC of old, you know what I mean? Like back when they had the men of Troy, like Clay Matthews, and I forget the other linebacker who played for the
Brian Cushing,
the Texans. Cushing, that's it. Yeah. So like, you know, that's what you think of, and I think this year defense is probably a little bit down, but again, the style of play and the way that the game is moving, it's fast, aggressive style of play. It's vertical offense, pushing the ball down the field. You're not really running as much. That's why I feel like teams that can run the ball effectively, like Michigan, Georgia, LSU at times, those are teams that are going to, that not only do they control the time of possession, but those are teams that are going to have the majority of the wins every single week. And they're going to be the toughest teams to play because they're giving their defense a ton of rest on the sideline to scheme up more blitzes, scheme up more twists, pinches, things like that. I don't know. I mean, when it comes to LSU, though, that's definitely a team, unfortunately, outside looking in. Jane Daniels, come back another year. You might even win the Heisman. If he comes back, if he declares that he's going to come back, guarantee you, he'll be an All SEC, he'll be an All American in the preseason, and he'll be number 1 on the Heisman watch list.
And we'll be like, wait and see until the season plays out for what happens, because I think there's another Heisman Trophy guy out there who's not in the SEC right now, who doesn't get any talk or any attention at all, and he's on an 8-1 team
Drake May?
now.
Are you talking about Drake May from UNC?
Drake May, North
Yeah,
Carolina.
yeah.
Absolutely
100%.
dynamic quarterback, redshirt freshman, doing everything that Johnny Manziel has done, but even smarter.
Yeah.
And it looks like his trajectory, especially, I mean, his talent, his overall family, bloodlines, talent, all of that stuff.
100%. And it makes you wonder, he was sitting behind Sam Howell, and Howell was doing some of these things at UNC. He's doing them better than Howell was.
Well, the reason why he was sitting down, because he was a freshman, and you know how Matt Brown is, and a lot of these old school coaches, they're going to always give these upperclassmen an opportunity, unless you're Barry Sanders. I mean, you just come in and just blow everybody out of the water. Yeah. They're going to give their upper man. And Sam Howell had no reason to get benched. He was playing well enough.
No. I'm not saying. I think.
No, I'm saying look. He had no reason to get benched, and give this guy an opportunity to do it. He played his 4 games. He redshirted because the rule allows it, and now they're getting their results right now. Let's not forget the recruiter that Mac Brown is. This is the same quarterback who turned down Alabama. He was flipped by Mac Brown from Alabama. So Mac Brown still at this age, still recruiting crazily like he did at North Carolina years ago when he had Ebenezer Ekuban and Dre Bly in that same defense when it was ridiculous. I think Julius Peppers played back then. I mean, so yeah, man, we talking Mac Brown on the scene, not getting the respect because the ACC just isn't that good.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, but Drake May, I think, is that good. That's the problem.
He is. No, he is.
Just like I think Sam Hartman is a top 5 quarterback. You know what I mean? Just because he doesn't play in the SEC, he plays for Wake, and what he's been able to do for Wake Forest.
Yep.
They're not that record without Sam Hartman.
No question. I think there is some people, because I even get caught up thinking at the same time when I see him and I think about Wake Forest, I'm still thinking about Jim Grove's offense.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about Roddy Skinner being there, man.
Oh man,
he still does it. It's wide open, and when you see the highlights or you watch the games, you see it's a wide open offense. And you're like,
oh yeah,
this isn't the old Fisher DeBerry Jim Grove.
Yeah, I think the offense is definitely moving that vertical style, aggressive play. But anyway, LSU outside looking in for me. Jay Daniels going to be a monster if he comes back.
So you see the question up there. Georgia has proven to be the number 1 team, not even as a Georgia fan, but just as an observer of college football. As it stands right now, playing who they're supposed to play, getting up for the game they need to get up for. This wasn't Kent State. This wasn't Missouri. No. This was Tennessee coming in with a potential Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback. Couldn't get the job done. They didn't get anything done. They shut down everything he did and everything he stood for that day.
Right. Yeah, the defensive game plan. So giving I think what really helped, and this is me taking off my Bulldog glasses, so to speak. What really helped was that Tennessee had played 2 really, really tough games prior to Georgia. They gave them a ton of film on offense and what they like to do. And if you give Kirby Smart 2 weeks or 3 weeks of game prep time, which they had prior to the game, what he dialed up scheme-wise was amazing. Keely Ringo being able to be on an island like he was, the kid already punched his ticket as a top 10 pick. Let's just put it that way. He was able to all you heard coming into this game was Jalen Hyatt, Hendon Hooker, right? Like the dynamic duo.
That's it.
We're getting
those 5 touchdowns would made it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I forget the receiver that they got back from injury, who's projected as a first rounder as well. So Tennessee, make no mistake, Tennessee is a very good team. I didn't see this at all coming from them. I saw them as an 8-win team at the beginning of the year when I did my projections. I was like, 8 wins. They're going to stumble. They're going to stumble, obviously, against Georgia, Bama. I think they lose to LSU. So, they shocked me. They really did. But Hendon Hooker, I think, is that dude. Like, I really do.
I just don't. That's where you and I kind of butt heads on that one right there.
But we had that discussion, and it was a healthy debate. And I just think when it comes to what I was able to see him throw, I get it. Big games. It was Georgia. Georgia made Bo Nix, who's now on the outside looking in for the Heisman, look horrible. week 1. You know what I mean?
But you also have to understand that was a 0-week game, right?
It was, and it was the first week.
And you always feel that first game is always a throwaway game.
Exactly.
You know
I
what
think
I mean?
you can line them up right now.
Because teams can go on the ascent after that game, and then they're a completely different team 3 weeks down the line.
Yeah.
As we see right now, I don't know if it's really because I thought Bo Nix was a damn good quarterback when he was at Auburn.
Yeah.
I watched his father play, back when he was at Auburn, man, Patrick Nix. And I remember he went undefeated there. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I thought Bo Nix was a good quarterback. I thought he would have going into this season, believe it or not, not this season, but last season. I was like, you know what? Would have been going into this season. I didn't know he was going to transfer. I thought he'd be a Heisman Trophy candidate for Auburn going into this season.
Final year, yeah.
Yeah, and it just obviously he left. And I'm wondering, is it the Pac-12 being that bad, or is Bo Nix going to that next level of play? Because I see the numbers that they put up, and they kept showing the highlights of what Bo Nix had done every time you watched the game this past weekend.
Yeah,
you saw another Bo Nix highlight, but it was against Colorado. It was 1-7.
Yeah, my buddy Tyson wasn't too thrilled. I mean, I think looking at the spread, they were a 35 dog at home, so it's like, okay, cool. CU is just terrible right now, and we can do a whole podcast episode on that alone, how bad they are. But when it comes to Bo Nix, I'm just going to end it here. After my little comment on him, he's a very talented player. He, to me, reminds me of a squirrel. He moves too fast. His brain thinks faster than his feet does. So he sees the right play to make. He sees the right throw to make. And yet he's thinking too fast for his body. So if you see him, he twitches a lot. Like when he's got the ball, if he runs, he's just thinking faster than his body's his body can't keep up with how fast he's thinking. If he's able to, and Dan Lanning has done a very good job with him, toning him down. Just, hey, dude, you're at a 10, come to an 8. And you're going to be phenomenal. And they figured it out. And like what they've done at Oregon, look out. Like, I really think that they're going to win the Pac-12. I think they're going to blow out USC.
But, and that's another thing I was looking at, just a little while ago, there was a lot of talk about the Lincoln Riley and the Caleb Williams teaming up at USC. And to me, they look like one of those formidable teams that wasn't just a good team beating up on Pac-12 teams, but I thought they were one of these national teams that might just sneak into this mix and make a big disruption.
I mean, they're already in the mix.
That was upset themselves.
Yeah, they're already in the mix. USC and Oregon are both there. Whoever wins that Pac-12, if they win out, either one wins out, they're in. I think they're in.
But neither one of those teams make me think now the Pac-12 has something to say. It still means, just another Pac-12 team. You're the best of the Pac-12. The other teams, the other conferences are so much ahead of you, and the top-tier teams in those conferences are even further ahead of you. And, I mean, that's what I look at when I see those teams play.
Yeah. So for me, it's definitely top-heavy, Pac-12 for sure. But you give Dan Lanning and Riley.
Good enough when you talk about the heavier teams like the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, look, you had Utah ranked the way they were going into the swamp in the beginning of the year, and they lost.
Barely lost, but they
shouldn't have been even close.
It shouldn't have been. I had Utah beating Florida, and it wasn't close. And
I had Florida beating Utah. Actually, this wasn't the Utah team that went up and beat up Nick Saban's Alabama team in the show.
No, this wasn't the Utah team of the championship or in the bowl game last year either, or even the team that beat Oregon twice in the to win the Pac-12.
But I thought Florida was in such disarray, especially now they got the new coach and everything, and he has to put everything on point. And he's not there yet. I've always thought just having Florida athletes alone would be good enough. It's just not like that anymore because these top players are going to Alabama. They're not staying in Florida like they used to when they went to either Miami, Florida State, or Florida. Now you have Miami, Florida State, Florida. You have Florida International. You have Florida Atlantic. You have Central Florida that kind of sticks their head out every now and then.
You have Jacksonville State.
Well, Jacksonville State, that's in Alabama, I believe.
Oh, either way.
Jacksonville State, that's in Jacksonville State, Alababama. We have JU, the University.
JU, that's it. Yeah.
The Dolphins, who got rid of their football program just a couple of years ago. It was a non-scholarship program, but their basketball team would have gone to the tournament last year, if not for that rule that got Burlingame in. But anyway, that's another story. That's basketball. But anyway, the Pac-12 just isn't doing it for me, man. And even with those two teams being who they are, I just don't see it. I just think the athletes in the Big Ten right now with their top teams, Ohio State and Michigan, and the SEC with their top teams, whether it's Georgia, whether it's even still Tennessee or whatever else they have left, it's still better than what they have, and they've proven it.
Agreed. And I don't know. I think It's tough. It's really tough. I mean, like I said, so a lot of these teams are outside looking in. Who is out of that? I mean, you can't argue. Georgia is 1. Who's 2, 3, and 4? You know what I mean? It's up for debate.
And by the way, now that you mentioned 4, we know who 4 is. It's TCU, and I'm calling it right now. Texas will beat TCU this Saturday.
You're calling it, huh?
I'll call that, man. TCU.
Okay.
I mean, Texas Texas, I think it took some time for them to learn how to play as a team. I know Sarkisian's been there for a little bit of time now, but it takes them time to play as a team. They almost did it when it came to Alabama, and they kind of relaxed and lost, and then they came back. Then they lose it, I think Texas Tech. But anyways, I think this is at a point now, man for man, and now being in the state of Texas, I think they're ripe. I think TCU is ripe. I remember years back when LaDainian Thompson played for TCU. And
TCU, yeah.
Undefeated.
All kinds of records.
And then San Jose State beats them, bro.
Yeah.
Come on now. I was watching that game, wondering what the heck I was watching.
Right. Yeah, he broke all kinds of records.
State, who hasn't had a player since this guy named Charles Pauly as a wide receiver. Oh, my God. And I don't even know if he even made it to the NFL. But anyways, they lost to them. And I'm not looking at that like that. I'm using that as a point of reference of how they cruise control and lost to San Jose State. Now they're cruise control and they're playing the name team in the state, the flagship team of the state of Texas.
Yeah, for sure.
The University of Texas.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good call. It's a good call. Do they take them lightly? Or, I mean, I think they're both going to get up. I think Quinn Ewers, though, is going to have a day. I really do.
You know what? When he played against Alabama, man, his arm disappointed me. Now he's cerebral.
He got hurt. He played for like 2 series.
What I'm saying, remember they were hot when he was there.
Yeah,
he was putting the ball in locations. He reminded me of Ty Detmer when he was with BYU. There wasn't any real arm strength, but he knew where to put that ball.
Yeah, he did. He's very accurate with the ball, but he couldn't throw it 30 yards. Yeah.
So now, should Tennessee be proud of what they do? Should they be just happy to get there? Should they be happy to have this record? Or should they still be disappointed and grind it out for the rest of the season and make sure there's only one loss this year?
I think it's bittersweet. But as we've said, if they left Tennessee at 5, I thought that they were going to have Tennessee at 6 or 7.
Yeah.
Tennessee is more than likely there's going to be 2 SEC teams in. And Tennessee, even though I do not believe that you should be in if you do not play in the title game of any conference, you should not be in at all. Tennessee will more than likely get a chance to get back in. I think they will.
I think it was set up just for that.
Yeah, me too.
You have those conspiracy theorists out there that say they ESPN and everybody who has money wants to see an SEC team in the championship game.
No.
Instead of just admitting the obvious that the SEC has the best teams, they'll come with something like that instead. And they'll come with something like USC should be there, or they'll come with some outlier. It wouldn't even be Ohio State or Michigan. It'll be some outlier that doesn't belong there to begin with. Oregon deserves it. Get out of here. They had their opportunity. Look what happened.
Yeah, agreed. And so when the committee first came out and they put, I forgot who it was, but Tennessee was at 1, and then they disrespected TCU, but then they also put Georgia at 3. And they said, well, because Georgia had struggled against Kent State and Missouri. And then I was thinking back, I was like, well, Tennessee struggled with Florida, struggled with Pitt, struggled with Bama.
Yeah.
How are they 1? Like, I don't understand. What has Georgia shown you that they're not the number 1 team? As we now know, they are. You know what I mean? Like,
it's no question. I think it's just a case of Georgia getting up for teams. Yeah. I mean, we could look at, the Kent State game. Almost every great team at some
still
point
won by
has
17.
Kent State game.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And the biggest thing is the Missouri game. Yeah,
if you want to go back to basketball with UNLV when they had that fantastic team, they struggled with Ball State. Yeah. Come on, man. On the way to just rocking everybody's dough.
Yeah. And I tell everybody, well, what about Missouri? Dude, Missouri, that was a Missouri Super Bowl. Just like this week is Missouri's Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, Missouri got up for Georgia. It was at home. It was set for them. It was a night game for them. Like, they wanted to beat this team, and you could tell. So, yeah, I think Tennessee should absolutely be proud with so far what they've done. And what Heupel is building there, this isn't just a one-and-done year, I don't think. I think the East, they're all on the rise.
I think the problem is does he get a chance to continue building, or does he go back to his alma mater, which has the money, and they're coming to the SEC anyway? That's a big deal because Oklahoma has deep pockets along with Texas. Those oil guys can do what they want. I mean, we don't need Oklahoma State with T. Boone Pickens, even though he's not even there. The type of money they have, Oklahoma has even more. Mm-hmm. If they want him, they'll have him.
Agreed.
And you know, from playing and being at a particular school, you know, when your alma mater comes calling and they got the money to kind of back it up, it's very hard to say no.
Yeah, agreed.
Most times you find your college sweetheart or your high school sweetheart in that same state.
Yeah. Yeah, usually that's kind of how it works. That's how it happened for me anyway.
Yeah. Wow. So let's now get into the others. And of course, we spoke about other teams outside of the SEC, so we need to wrap this up a little sooner. Clemson, they weren't that good to begin with. Them losing, so what? It was expected. It was just a matter of time. But Notre Dame doing the honors, I'm surprised about that. But at the same time, Notre Dame also beat North Carolina.
They did. They handed North Carolina their only loss. I think they play USC soon. I don't know if it's this week or if it's the week after. I know that they play USC, and that'll be a good game.
Just spoilers.
But you're right. Clemson. So I had Ryan Brzee as my top 2 edge rusher coming into the season. I had it was Anderson, Brzee, and then Carter was but Carter wasn't an edge rusher. He's a D tackle. We all know this. But I thought that as far as like pure pass rushing style, you know what I mean? Like you can line up Brzee on the interior side of the D. You can line him up for the center, and he'll still get the quarterback. I had him as one of the, as a dark horse for the defensive player of the year for not only the ACC but as well as the nation. But DJ Uiagalelei, we can talk about the fact that he came in against it was Notre Dame as a freshman when Trevor Lawrence got hurt, and he lit him up like 4 or 5 TDs, 300 yards or something like that. Like it was, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, the future's so bright at Clemson." And all the kid has done the last 2 years is got benched, and then got benched again. It's time to move on. Like DJ Uiagalelei, if I'm him, I'm transferring out. I'm not even gonna, because they have a kid that they brought in. It was a 5-star from last season, and that kid's sitting on the bench. And he's a freshman
coming in too.
And exactly. And freshmen don't really play. Like that's the myth. I want to speak on this real quick. Do not expect a freshman to play ever. Like the fact that they do play is because 9 times out of 10 they early enroll and they get a chance to work with the team in the spring, and they come in and they learn the in and outs, and they're that good. That's the only way a freshman quarterback will ever play.
Yeah, people don't understand the huge jump.
It's rare.
From high
it's
school
really
to
rare.
college. And then you're talking SEC is even more ridiculous. I mean, not with him.
Ridiculous.
You're talking about ACC there, but I mean, when you're talking about a player going to the SEC, because the reason why I had SEC on the brain with that is because the quarterback I thought that could just come in and at least hold his own.
Yeah,
was Chris Leak coming out of Independence High School in Charlotte. He was one of the best high school footballs I've ever seen thrown.
Really?
And then he's won the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of North Carolina 3 years in a row. Mm-hmm. He came to Florida, but he didn't have it upstairs. Now, I'm not going to put people on the spot, but I've heard from very reliable people that the playbook had to be dumbed down. I mean, Tim Tebow was there to save his blood, especially at the end, but he just wasn't that bright a player.
Yeah. And you saw it in the NFL. And the NFL exposes everybody's weaknesses.
Well, he saw it in the NFL training camp. He was skipping balls.
Yeah.
You skipping 10-yard balls, man. You don't have the arm strength. I don't know.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But yeah, going back to DJ Uiagalelei, the kid, now when it comes to talent, super talented. It's almost like something happened to him between his freshman year, that offseason. I don't know if it's Dabo's development because he developed Trevor Lawrence. So
I'm saying his development. I think each player has their own type of development.
Did they fire
coach do the same thing? And Norm Chow, remember him, the quarterback whisperer?
Yeah.
Norm Chow used to be everybody's quarterback's coach, and then he finally got his own job in Hawaii. He didn't do anything. Yeah. But that kind of a quarterback's coach that had multiple people who had gone through his tutelage, and you saw the success as they moved on.
Right.
He's just not doing it. DJ's just not doing it. This guy, as you said, is talented. He beat out a senior when he was a sophomore in high school.
Right.
And he was in one of the top high schools in the country in Don Bosco in California.
Yeah.
That same senior ended up going to Iowa State. Now, I don't think he even played quarterback there, but the fact that he was that great an athlete as a senior was getting beat out by a sophomore shows you what DJ was all about. At least
it does. It does. I don't think anybody's questioning the talent that DJ has. I think what it is that's why I'm wondering, like, I want to know, I wish I could be like, just like shadow somebody on that front office for a day, that's coaching staff for a day. Be like, hey man, like, what did you change with your approach with him? Because there's something going on that we're not seeing as like, outside eyes, like inside.
Mm-hmm.
There's something going on inside that locker room that I think has really tweaked with DJ, and I think his confidence is gone. I really do. That's why I said, if I'm DJ, I'm saying, hey, I can't be at Clemson anymore. It's nothing against Clemson, but being here is rocking my psyche, because you just see he's looks so uncomfortable under center and in shotgun.
Yeah, he does.
He just doesn't look like he, even at home when the crowd is quiet, he just looks like he doesn't want to be there. And it's something that's weird. It's really weird.
You can count the 200+ yard games on one hand of what he's done since he's been
right.
there. 200-yard plus games. I don't expect him to be another Tua.
No,
and that is just because of Polynesian, but
they had after that Notre Dame game, they were like they already penciled him as the number 1 overall pick after that Notre Dame game. So I was like, okay, like I mean, and I'm on board. I think he's going to be a great talent. Clemson's in good hands, and now it is what it is.
Oh, what a mess. So do you have any final thoughts? Heisman Trophy, other teams that we need to throw into the mix? I've already mentioned the TCU getting upset about Texas or by Texas. Ohio State, Michigan, they're very strong teams in the Big Ten. Penn State wasn't a bad team. They just got roughed up by those two. Okay. Minnesota was a nice team until I think Ibrahim got hurt. Muhammad Ibrahim.
Yeah.
He got hurt for a little bit, and they just kind of lost their mojo in that game and hadn't gotten it back. But,
right.
Yeah. Final thought you have.
Yeah, my who's the running back from Illinois? I forget his name.
Oh God, I can't remember right now. I got all these names just always bouncing around in my head, and guess what? I'm gonna wake up in a cold sweat tonight saying it.
Yeah, Chase Brown. That's who it is. I think. I hope I'm right.
Illinois choked on themselves this past Saturday too.
Yeah. When it comes to the Heisman, and this is I have a couple final thoughts that I want to get to. Again, thank you so much for hosting me on your show.
Oh, no problem at all.
It's been a lot of fun.
Conversation.
You, like I said, man, I love talking football with you all day, every day. But when it comes to the Heisman, I am so sick and tired of the Heisman going to, in my opinion, the undeserving player. Right? The Heisman should go to the most deserving individual for that season. Right? Meaning the best player. It doesn't have to be on the best team. Give me the best overall player. You have a kid who's got 2,000 yards almost in college football, and the fact that he's not even listed on the Heisman, what is going on? Like Drake May, for another example, is not getting any love. And I get it. Adrian Peterson kind of ruined it he should have won it as a freshman at Oklahoma. He should have won the Heisman.
True freshman.
As a true freshman,
Marshall Falk should have won it as a true freshman.
Exactly. I'm so sick and tired of the Heisman not going to underclassmen when they absolutely deserve it. Yes, there's other accolades. You got the Maxwell, you've got the Buckus, Heisman. Give me the best player for that season getting the best award, and the Heisman means more to that one player than it does any of those other awards. And I'm just, it's got to go to that player. Will Anderson should have won it last year. He really should have. Like the guy with the force, or Aiden Hutchinson. How come they weren't even in consideration?
Aiden was a beast.
That's what I'm saying. Like the best overall player wasn't Bryce Young. It was Anderson or it was Aiden. That was the two. So my thing is, I really wish they would revamp the Heisman and how they kind of looked at it, and kind of came out with a new campaign for these players. Like let the teams give other love to like some of these other players, like when they go up against them. And coaches do a good job of saying,
it's a top-heavy award.
Agreed.
The top teams are going to get it, and their opportunities. The top team, if not the top team, it's going to come from the top conference.
And it kind of should, but it kind of shouldn't. Like I said, Drake, ACC is not a bad conference. I mean, these kids are still Division I athletes. They still wake up at 5. I mean, they still wake up at 5 in the morning, and they go to sleep at midnight, and all they do is live, eat, breathe, and sleep football. Like they're focused and they're locked in. And when you have a player that's above the rest, and it goes back, if it goes to the best team, how come Stetson Bennett is not even on the list? what
You know
more
what?
does he have
Because
to do?
the people have that game manager in their mind, even though he's hitting 300-yard games, and even though he's passed for more yards than like everybody right now who's allegedly on the list, including Hooker.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. They look at him as a game manager and everybody else around him, and they look at his age.
It's the team.
You know what? You look at his age now, but didn't care about Chris Winkie. Come on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the team. It's not him. No, it's just as much him as it is the team. Football is still a team sport. We all know this, but you can recognize the individual athletes that are helping the team win. And Stetson Bennett is definitely one of those players that I think should be. I don't think he should win it, but I think he should be on the.
He should be in the argument, though.
He should be in the argument. Exactly.
Get the invite up to New York or wherever they're having it these days.
And then my other final thought, that was my Heisman rant. You know what I mean? I think it'll go. I hope it goes. Honestly, my Heisman, I think, is C.J. Stroud, based on what he's done this season, or Drake.
I hope last Saturday didn't hurt him because those numbers weren't what they should have been.
Exactly.
But see, these stat heads, they're not going to look at the game. They're just going to look at the stat box.
Exactly. They're going to be like, one bad game that he threw for 50 yards. That's not. But look what he rushed for. Yeah, whatever. But my other final thought is going back to the committee when we kind of talked about it. The committee, I think, they need to get new faces. They need to abolish it. They need to get actual former players, former coaches on this committee. I don't want politicians. I don't want commissioners. I don't want athletic directors, because they're going to give you biased information. They're going to come with they're going to bring politics into the game, and politics should not be in the game. They're going to give. That's why I want legit former players, former coaches, former scouts. It doesn't matter. Like guys that have played the game. Girls that have, it can be women as well, that have ties to the game. You know what I mean? Like their dad was a head coach somewhere or whatever, or they're aspiring to be a head coach. You know what I mean? Which I think is amazing.
Do what's best for college football. Do what's best for the game instead of what is best for a certain interest. Because
and expand the playoff. And expand the playoff. Go to 8. 8 is perfect. It's not too many.
Perfect. And the excuses they've had all these years, we just can't do it. The kids got to go to school. You're telling me the kids in the 1AA, which includes Harvard, these people have more than enough time to do that, and they're real student athletes, more so than these people in the majority of these major schools in 1A. Exactly. Come on now. You can tell me they're more students and they're able to do it. You're not as much of a student athlete as they are overall, with the exception of Vanderbilt and Stanford and Duke and a couple of other very small group of people. Yeah. And you can't do the same thing with the tournament that they have. Come on now. It's all the money thing. We understand the money's going to come. And the more people that are able to participate, the more money that's going to come as well.
And you hit on the head. Why? Like the fact that they didn't expand it because they're like, oh, well, money's an issue. The money would increase. You have 3 additional playoff games. The money alone on the TV contracts is worth that for a season for a TCU. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And then they embarrass themselves. They embarrass themselves by saying, well, our student athletes have tests. Like the Division 1AA team didn't have tests, or FBS, what you want to call them. But come on, that's this the FCS. These guys are just saying things, because it's like if it's too easy, they're not going to do it. If it's something complicated, that's what they're going to jump on board with and continue to allow it to be complicated.
Agreed. And like I said, so if the committee really messes up, which I think they've already done it, the first ranking list and then the second ranking list, I get it, it's really tough and it's obviously up for debate, but they have a big responsibility to a lot of these schools, and I don't think they're doing the right job personally. That's just my thing. But yeah, no, the college football season it sucks that it's almost over. It feels like it just started.
That fast.
Yeah. But I can't thank you enough, man. Thank you so much for hosting me.
Oh, no problem at all. Yeah. I'm glad that you was able to come on and we was able to get this discussion out there. I mean, there's only a handful of people that I know of that can hold the conversation of college football and go everywhere, not just get stuck in one area.
Agreed.
The God of all gods, in my opinion, a guy named Brent Beard, who will be on this show eventually. He's that guy in the Mount Rushmore of all college football people. He's like, makes Beat O'Brien ask questions. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Beat Cook. Beat O'Brien is the old running back from Washington, but Beat Cook, the former Beat Cook.
Okay.
But he knows his football. But I wanted to touch on just before we leave. Remember Troy Davis from Iowa State? 2,000 yards, 2 years in a row, and this guy doesn't even get a sniff of the Heisman?
Yeah, well, see, and that's what confuses me because Ron Dane did something like that, similar, and he won the Heisman.
He had 2,000 yards.
Yeah, and he won the Heisman. It blows my mind.
Lifetime achievement award for him because by the time he got it, he was, I think, a junior or senior before he
Yeah.
went on the Giants. It was a bust.
Yeah.
I don't like to say that, but yeah. So thanks for joining me, Travis Sports Bag on the set again. This time we're talking about the SEC and things. I'd like to thank once again Alan Blankers, and you also know him from the Fans Section podcast. You can check it out. Can you tell them where they can get it? Is it like Apple and all these other places?
Yeah, so we are on every single podcast platform out there, man. iTunes, Apple, Spotify, even up on there. So yeah, just go ahead and just type in the Fan Section. You'll see the pictures of blue logo with little lights and a little fan section. It's actually pretty fun.
So thanks once again for joining us. I know people who probably didn't watch this now. We have a type of a habit, I guess, because of this type of audience that we have. That's like a big boxing audience, and they get football every now and then and some basketball. They don't show up now, but over time they get a chance to see this broadcast, and they might like it, and then others might like it as well when they see the thumbnail from it.
Absolutely.
Again, I'm Trav. He's Alan. Trav Sports Bag is on the set. Talk to you soon. Let's talk to you soon.